Are you entitled to some money? Maybe your dad's long-forgotten bank account, maybe some jewelry left in a safe deposit box, an old insurance policy, or some stock, grandma's oil and gas royalties? We'll talk about abandoned property right now on The Law Works.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Closed captioning for The Law Works is made possible by a grant from the Monongalia County Bar Association to support legal information and education for all West Virginians. The Law Works is made possible by a major grant from the West Virginia Bar Foundation, the philanthropic organization for West Virginia's legal profession and legal system, promoting public knowledge of the law in West Virginia. By the generous support of Software Systems Incorporated, a West Virginia company established in 1975, providing high-end support services, programming, and consulting for county government AS400 mid-range computer systems, as well as PC-based systems. And by viewers like you.
The Treasurer of West Virginia is not only the state's banker, he also runs the Lost and Found Department. My guest is the Treasurer of West Virginia, the Honorable John D. Perdue. Mr. Perdue, thank you for coming up to do the show.
Well, it's always great to be back in my second home at Morgantown at the university where I went to school.
So. A lot of people in West Virginia feel that way. I said you run the state's Lost and Found Department. That's not really true. If I lose a pen while I'm at the Capitol, you're not going to have the pen. But you do run the Unclaimed or Abandoned Property program. First of all, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to be treasurer.
Oh, that's a very good question. Let's start back. I come from southern West Virginia, as a lot of people can tell from my accent in Boone County. And
I didn't notice it.
And well, thank you. And I grew up on a small rural farm, and as a teacher that recognized some of us young men that we could go to college, and this was an agriculture school at West Virginia University, and so he encouraged us to go to school and got us, broke the mold, so to speak, and my brother went first, and then I followed him to West Virginia University here, and it made a huge difference in my life. A teacher changed my life and opened up doors of opportunity beyond my expectations. And when I graduated from this university, I went to work for Gus Douglas, the agriculture commissioner, and still agriculture commissioner today, and climbed the ladder to be his assistant, and then went to work for a governor that I really believe changed West Virginia's history, Governor Gaston Caperton, and changed the way things were being done in West Virginia. And I was his senior executive assistant in charge of the budget and legislature, passing bills and so forth. And then he encouraged me to run for state treasurer, and I ran for the open seat of state treasurer in 1996, and that's how I became state treasurer, and I've been reelected for 4 terms.
So you've been in public service your whole working life?
My whole life has been in public service, being a public servant.
Well, the program that I want to specifically talk about, and you've got several programs in your office, we'll try to touch on some of those, was one that came around kind of oddly. I had contacted your office and said I wanted to talk about unclaimed property. I saw you were giving presentations around the state about that. And a couple of days after we booked the program, I opened the local newspaper and I found this insert. Now, how many of you have seen this and just taken it out of the paper and thrown it away? Bad move. You really need to take a look at this thing. When you open it up, what you see is column after column of names. Now, usually when you read the newspaper and you see something like this, it's a legal ad about people who didn't pay their real estate taxes. That's the most common use of those ads. But in this case, it comes from your office. And what's it all about?
Well, absolutely. People don't understand. When I became treasurer, I didn't really realize how much unclaimed property the state of West Virginia had. It was a part of my office, and we had over $100 million of unclaimed property that had never been claimed since the start of unclaimed property in the state.
$100 million just lying
in the treasurer's office. And I said, what do we do about this? And they started saying, well, every once in a while we put a little advertisement in the newspapers, and that's all we're required to do. And then we transfer the money to the legislature. And I said, well, it's not really our money, it's the people's money. And so we started doing the advertising, putting the inserts in the paper, started going to state fairs, senior centers, and advertising unclaimed property. Now, it took a while to get that out, because when you go to a fair or festival and you ask somebody to look for unclaimed property, they think you're trying to find where they owe taxes or something. And so they would
We're
not.
From the government, we're here to help you.
Yes. And so they wasn't interested in getting any help. And so we kind of changed all that, and then with technology, we brought it to the 21st century, and we started putting it on our web page, and being able to let you go back and look at unclaimed property. Not only in West Virginia, we got involved on a national level when I was national president of the NAS, the National Association of State Treasurers, and we started missingmoney.com. And you can now go to our website and look at all unclaimed property in West Virginia, which is $162 million now and continues to grow. And we've returned over $100 million over the years. So, but you can still go to our website, look for all the unclaimed property regardless of when it started. And then you may not find it there. You can go to missingmoney.com for my website and go to any state in the nation. And there's a lot of states around West Virginia. And since we're such a senior-oriented state, there's a lot of our seniors will go across the borders and hide money from their children, and and it will come unclaimed property. So
we have our own form of offshore banking in West Virginia.
And so it's amazing what becomes unclaimed property. Like you said, it can be, it's stock, it's CDs, it's insurance policies. It can be from safe deposit boxes, because all of us like to get that safe deposit box and keep all those things in there. And it comes coins and jewelry and a lot of valuable things that is passed down from generation after generation. And so it's important that you really check the unclaimed property, because we do, after a certain period of time, sell those items, but we keep the money and keep the records, what we sell them for, so it will still become your money.
Let's take a step back. Okay, let's talk about safety deposit boxes first.
Yes.
If somebody dies and they didn't tell their children they had a safety deposit box, and everybody forgets about it, after a period of time, the bank reports that these things are here, and they send them to you?
No, we go to the banks and we both open up the safe deposit box. We drill the box and we open it up, and then sign off on all the items. There is checks and balances. Then we take those items to Charleston, and then we keep those items as unclaimed property. We keep them for a certain period of time, 3 years, and if no one claims those pieces of property, we do advertise. Then we'll do an auction. And we do those online now. We do online auctions. We used to do live auctions, now we do online auctions.
So we don't have to travel to Charleston or to any particular location to participate in the auction, it's online.
Yeah, anybody in West Virginia can participate in that auction.
Well, I looked at your auction. Now, if you like heirloom jewelry, if you're a coin collector, if you like watches and things of that sort, take a look at this auction. There are some wonderful opportunities to buy things, well, at auction prices that you might find yourself in a jewelry store, in a coin shop, something like that, paying significant amounts of money for it. And it's an auction run on the basic online auction, eBay kind of model. It's not an eBay auction, it's different. But it's something, I saw, an 1819 crested bust $50 in what appeared to be fine to very fine condition on there, and the bid was next to nothing.
Yes.
If you're a coin collector particularly, there's lots of that. So that's safety deposit boxes. But money and things like money, I went through and made a list. It's all in the West Virginia Code. This is a matter of law. The things that get turned over to the Treasurer's office, and it includes such things as uncashed traveler's checks, money orders, stocks, business debt payments, non-interest-bearing deposits, interest-bearing deposits, money owed a retail business customer, gift certificates, insurance policies, annuities, business dissolution interests, class action lawsuit penalties or proceeds, government-held property, wages, utility refunds. Utility refunds. Have you ever been a student someplace or a young married couple where you made a utility deposit and then moved and forgot about it? John Purdue has that down there someplace, or may very well. It just goes on and on. And the names or the types of entities entitled to it, remember we talked about these long lists of names. It's not just individuals. There are individuals, fraternal organizations, retail businesses, travel agencies. Some of these I found fascinating. There's the name of a state Supreme Court justice in here, prosecuting attorney's office, state circuit court, county clerk, county commission, nonprofit entities, hospitals, banks, cities, lawyers, legislators. I found a legislator's name in there, schools, and a TV station. Not this one. we don't lose money.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Dan. I did find your name.
My name?
In unclaimed property, you and your brother. And I want to present you your unclaimed property check today on this show. And it's over $100, so you can take someone out to dinner or something like that.
I can buy some donuts.
And for the studio here. So I wanted to surprise you and let you know.
Well, I didn't expect to get it here, but true story. I had called the treasurer's office because I was aware of the unclaimed property function that you do, and frankly, I have been very impressed with it. I have collected money for clients and other relatives. A first cousin, I found money in my father's name some years ago. My 17-year-old son had some money. His grandma had taken out a savings account for him and put some money in it, and then didn't do anything with it, and finally she passed away. So 17-year-old kid got some money from unclaimed property. So we booked this program. A couple of days later, this insert shows up in the paper. I saw my mother's name in it, so I downloaded the forms from Mr. Purdue's website, and if you don't want to do that, they print the forms. Can we get this on camera somewhere? They print the forms in the book, so you can just clip and fill them out if that's what you want to do. But I downloaded them, filled them out, put them in an envelope, got ready to mail them. It took 30 minutes.
Yes,
Start to finish, 30 minutes. I did have to go because the name that was in there was my late mother's name. I had to go get a copy of her death certificate, but that took just a few moments. The county clerk was very cooperative in doing that. Then I sent it in. And then I sat back and waited, expected to wait 6 or 8 months to hear anything about it. But thank you very much. I'm not going to open that right now. That's between me and my late mother. But you're in there.
Yes. It's amazing what people let fall through the cracks, Dan. I mean, we've had the biggest one is over almost $1 million to two brothers of unclaimed property. So you might want to be a millionaire. It's free to go look at our website. And we've had quite a few big claims because people, like you say, someone bought your son maybe a savings account or stock. That happens quite often. Grandparents will buy their grandkids stock and forget about it. It'll fall through the cracks, come unclaimed property. We have insurance policies all the time. People think they've settled the estate. There's an insurance policy they did not know about, life insurance policy, that comes to the treasurer's office, and we find it later on. Savings accounts, CDs that, you know, we're such a senior-oriented state, and I talked briefly about all those states that border us. As we get older, we think our kids are trying to steal our money as we try to help our parents, and they will go and hide money from you in different banks that you're not used to your parents banking at, and it'll come unclaimed property. So it's more worth your while to take a few minutes to look at this, because you may find yourself or aunt or uncle, or you may find a friend, and that's how we get the word out and find and return over $100 million to people.
We're talking about unclaimed property. My guest is West Virginia Treasurer John D. Purdue. I'm Dan Ringer, and this is The Law Works. You talked about the multi-state nature of this. I had a client and friend who found that somebody had bought some stock for him when he was a baby. He was never clear about who did it, but he found that existed, and we traced it through the unclaimed property divisions of numerous states, and he ended up getting stock. It was utility company stock that was worth over $100,000
Yes.
by the time we got it all worked out. He made claims in at least 2 or 3 different states to get it, but it was an amazing amount of money. And he never knew who bought it for him. And I talked about my mother making a safety deposit, or making a bank deposit in my son's name. I have found the names of friends. In this same insert, I not only found my mother's name, I found the name of a young woman that I had grown up with as my next door neighbor. I found my first cousin's name and names of several people that I knew, and I was able to call them and say, look at this, file your claim. So do not pass this off. There's a tendency to think, well, I don't come from a family of rich folks, there's no hidden money anywhere, there's no buried treasure in the backyard. But there might be, figuratively.
Absolutely, but we also, we kind of focus on individuals, but we also have businesses that end up with unclaimed property. We have, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Little League treasures, churches. We have a lot of people that end up with unclaimed property other than individuals as well, Dan, and we've returned a lot of money that way as well.
And it turns out that West Virginians historically are frugal people, especially, as you've said, Mr. Perdue, we have an older population here. West Virginia is kind of a retirement community. People want to come home here because this is where they're from and and they bring money with them sometimes, or they put little bits aside. Do you remember hearing about the insurance policies where someone would come to the house and for 10 cents a week they would sell you an insurance policy? It might have only been a policy for $500 or even for $50. And many people bought them thinking, well, this is something for the future, or maybe this is the money we'll use to bury Papa when he passes away.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes those policies were lost. People forgot about them. Now they're coming to the surface.
And we just had one of those, the oldest recipient in the country, 101 years old. We found her insurance policy her husband was taken out of almost $500 that was for that purpose, and she was 101 years old when she received her unclaimed property.
And $500 to a 101-year-old lady is a lot of money.
Absolutely.
They're not all $1 million. Sometimes they're less than that. Sometimes, I suppose people may call in and say, what is it? Do you tell them what it is? How much information can they
we'll
get?
usually tell them if it's a stock, insurance policy, CDs, or what it might be. We're not allowed under the law to tell them how much it is, but we will, if they will say, is this worth my while? If it's less, is it less than $50, or if it's less than $25, we'll usually answer the question yes or no. So, we have a lot of claims that is $2 and $3 or whatever, and those don't get claimed, and we understand it's a lot of work for paperwork, and it costs us a lot of money, but most claims average over $50 in the state to be claimed, and believe it or not, we've already returned $14 million this year.
This year?
Yeah, so, $14 million is a lot of money in a year's time, and that shows you how popular the program is becoming. And on the online claims of claiming the property, it's really become popular now. And this has been a cornerstone in our office of educating people what unclaimed property is all about. We hold workshops and so forth, and it's really become popular and a lot easier to claim money. So it's we lead the nation, little West Virginia, in returning unclaimed property to their citizens.
We're talking about unclaimed property. My guest is West Virginia Treasurer John D. Perdue. I'm Dan Ringer, and this is The Law Works. Is this all the names of people you're holding property for?
Absolutely not. That's just a partial list. We put that out every once in a while as a teaser, we call it, to get people to start going to our website to start looking for unclaimed property. And we get thousands and thousands of hits after we put that out and that's when we start really gearing up and finding a lot of people money. We have people that work for me that goes around to senior centers and fairs and festivals now. State fair is a big place. We find all kinds of people at the state fair, unclaimed property, because we set up our computers there and everything, and we can find them live right there. And so we do a lot of that. So it's become a very popular thing to do in West Virginia. We have a lot of senior centers call us wanting us to come by and do unclaimed property, and we find a lot of people.
And you may be thinking to yourself, well, I don't own a computer, or I'm not online, so I can't claim my property, or I threw the insert away, I can't get that. We're going to put a number on the screen, telephone number on the screen here for you. Call that number. It's the auditor's office. You don't have to be computer literate. You don't have to have the insert. Just call the treasurer's office, give them your name, and ask them if they've got anything in your name. You may also want to think about your parents' names and your maybe even your grandparents' names. Now, don't call with everybody you know or every relative, but if you have any reason to suspect that you may be entitled to something, call down and ask. But please, the next time this comes by in your newspaper, pull it out, look at it for your name. If you're a woman and you have another name, a maiden name or a name from a previous marriage, take a look at that. Look for your children's names, look for your grandparents' names, and if you want to be a really nice person, look for your next door neighbor's name too, because you may find that. As I understand it, this is just basically the most recent names that have
That's the
come
most
into
recent
your office.
names that came out that's in those lists. But, we find, that's what you said, Dan, from a lot of our seniors, they'll say, I get a Christmas card from old Joe, who used to be my neighbor, and his son moved to California, and I saw his name, what I do, and they will call him up, and we find unclaimed property that way.
And sometimes people will be named in wills. Old Joe may have liked you and decided to leave you $50 or $100 or maybe more. He puts your name in his will, but he doesn't put your address or your hometown, and when it comes time to administer the estate, nobody knows where to find you. That money ends up with the state of West Virginia as unclaimed property. Okay, enough about unclaimed property. You said some things at the top of the show that I want to get back to. You credited a teacher for recognizing that you had some potential. Same thing happened to me. You went to college, you got an education, you were able to go out and start working in the field that you studied and just kind of blossomed from there. Your office is involved in education.
Absolutely. We're involved a lot in education. One is our Smart 529 College Savings Program, a great program, $1.5 billion that parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, people saving for their children, grandchildren, cousins, education.
Is that nationally?
It's a national program. We have one of the best in the country. We focus on West Virginia, though. We have over 120-some thousand West Virginia families involved in our program, saving for their children's and grandchildren's education. And you get a dollar-for-dollar tax break on that, on your state income tax.
So if I put $500 into a 529 program, I get to write off $500 from my income?
on your state income tax. And that is a great benefit. It's like making 6% off in your money without even doing much.
Well, my kids have already gone to college and they're out on their own now.
But that doesn't matter. You might want to put that in their name because they may decide to go back to law school. You say you're a lawyer or become a doctor or go to grad school or any type of education.
So it's not just undergraduate education?
No, it's not undergraduate education. A lot of people believe that, and that's what happens, and your children change their mind. The flexibility of our program is fantastic. You can keep that money there. You never know when one of your children is going to go back to get a different degree or increase their education or take some kind of courses for their job or something like that. They can use that money for that purpose. Then if they have grandchildren down the road, you can transfer that money to your grandchildren then, the flexibility of the program. So that's what makes this program so great.
So if I put money aside for education for my family, I put it in the name of my kids, I guess, or in my grandkids, but if they don't use it, it can move down through the generations.
Absolutely. It's kind of like unclaimed property. It never goes away, and you can use that use that college savings 529 program and transfer it from kid to kid, cousins or whatever, and let them use it for their
It seems like a
education.
pretty painless way of saving for education.
It's very easy to save for education, and you can get started for $50. That's the beauty of it. And for $15 a month, you can put in that. We make it very flexible for any West Virginian to be able to save for that college education. Now, you can save a lot more than that because college is not getting any cheaper, but the flexibility of the program, we have gotten it where about anyone can participate in the program and help save for their child's education.
I think of this program very much the way I think of the federal government's GI Bill program. Many of us have served in the military, and when we came out, we were entitled to education monies from the government. They would pay so much per month or however the program worked at the time. And those programs were just fantastic. In my generation, I saw many people who had college degrees go into the service, come out of the service, and then go to graduate or professional school. And the rewards back to the government are amazing. Not only as a college graduate or someone with a graduate degree or professional degree do you make more money, but you also pay more taxes. And the government gets the money back. They give you a tax credit for putting money in a 529 education program, but almost certainly your children will pay the state back for that in their income taxes. It may not be this state, it may be another state, but it reinforces and it rolls over. These are just wonderful ideas. I've always felt you can never spend too much money on education.
No, I believe that too. I think education is what really is the key to the economy of any state and opens up the doors of opportunity for anyone that wants to be successful in life. And not only that, we also have, Dan, what we call Net Worth in our office. It's a financial educational program that we won a national award for, where we try to educate kids to start learning about finances, what their parents really are paying in a house payment, utility payments, car payments, insurance payments, all that. And it's hands-on. It's Get a Life type program.
Learn the rules of life.
We learn the rules, and it's been a great program. And we start teaching that all the way from kindergarten through high school, and we implement it in the lesson plans that are already there.
Go to the Treasurer's websites and look at the educational programs that are there and learn about what happens at the Treasurer's office and maybe even file a claim for unclaimed property. John Perdue, Treasurer of West Virginia, thank you, sir, for being with us.
It's been great being here, Dan.
Thank you also for being with us on behalf of the LawWorks. I'm Dan Ringer. Good evening. On the LawWorks website at thelawworks.org, you'll find a listing of recent The LawWorks programs, additional information about this show's topic, and video of this and recent shows. You can also find the LawWorks programs on YouTube and iTunes. If you would like to suggest a topic for a future The LawWorks show, or if you're a school teacher and would like to receive a DVD of this show for classroom use, send us email at thelawworks@comcast.net or visit us on Facebook.
The LawWorks is produced in cooperation with the West Virginia Bar Foundation, the Mountain State Bar, the Monongalia County Bar Association, and the West Virginia University College of Law. The LawWorks is made possible by a major grant from the West Virginia Bar Foundation, the philanthropic organization for West Virginia's legal profession and legal system, promoting public knowledge of the law in West Virginia. By the generous support of Software Systems Incorporated, a West Virginia company established in 1975, providing high-end support services, programming, and consulting for county government AS400 mid-range computer systems, as well as PC-based systems. And by viewers like you.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.